Good morning, comrades. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Nürburgring and to Apex. I'm pretty sure majority of you guys want to see the technical details behind us disassembling the Toyota. Maybe not the GT86, although we took the gearbox out, something you can watch in yesterday's video and in the upcoming week's videos, but about disassembling the engine of the GR Yaris. But first, a big thank you and shout out to the main sponsor of today's video. We don't do this kind of nonsense on this channel. First, a disclaimer that could be important. We always advocate for transparency, so whenever the issue started to happen with the engine, we were keeping you up to date with the compression tests, with also what we thought that is the cause of the engine issue, in this case the overrev or the misshift from 5th to 2nd gear. And this is something that we were completely open about, and this is also something that we have communicated to Toyota. And they have said, well, in this case, the warranty is voided because the issue or defect is caused by the driver input error, I would say. And even if we cannot say it now, we will be able to confirm it through ECU readings, through the what's it called? Through the ECU logs. That was the word I was looking for. But what I'm trying to say is that they are aware of the situation, and since the warranty is voided already anyway, we decided to open up the engine last night to show it to you and also look for ourselves what an overrev would cause, like a very severe or probably severe mechanical overrev would cause. And details of that we're hoping to find out through Toyota later when they're gonna read out the ECU and tell us more into detail. But for now, enjoy the video. So, George, what has happened?
I won't go into massive amounts of detail, but if you look down here, you can see on the inlet valve, cylinder 1, you can see that there's something missing, which is at the end of my finger. So you can see it in the camera.
Oh, there.
There we go. You can see something's missing.
Whereas here we have
said something is the valve spring. Now, by the looks of it,
the spring is just around the corner.
Man, but we've had this joke once today. Come on, think of another one.
We didn't have it on the video.
So basically, it's easy to look on these ones. So these are the rocker arms. So basically, what's happened is on the overrev, it's obviously caused a slight damage to the rocker arm. Which is, in what I suspect, is the one that's already off. This pin wasn't in originally, so when I took it apart, this pin was floating around separate, this one here. I suspect that the pin has, after a couple of heat cycles and some vibration, the pin's come out of the rocker arm has come off completely, which has then obviously caused the valve to float. Now, with the valve floating, let me just get some tissue because I've got oil over my finger. With the valve floating, pistons obviously come up, push the valve back in. I wouldn't say it's completely bent the valve straight away by the looks of it, but it's definitely bent it in somewhat, because you can normally, you should be able to pick that valve and push it, move it a little bit, but you can't, it's completely stuck. So it's clearly caused damage. So yeah, that's obviously that's where it's at the moment. That's why it's got no compression, because the valve is basically open. So you've got, on your compression test, it's literally all just going straight out the cylinder. It's not holding any pressure in there at all. So yeah, that's basically what's happened. So at the moment, I've managed to find some of the debris, as you can see here. There's a collet here somewhere as well.
Yeah, there.
Okay, there it is. So these little collets are the piece that holds the valve to the top of the retainer on top of the spring, which you can see down here. It's got this little plate on top here, where the rocker touches. Yeah, and that holds everything all together and connects the spring and the valve essentially. Now, obviously, we have some other missing parts, which is, I think I can actually see a bit there actually, in that little puddle of oil. So yeah, there's a few floating around, which is the next, as long as there's no serious damage, that's going to be the next problem, is finding all the debris and making sure you get all of it out of the engine. Because the last thing you want is the old collet that you can't find just floating around and causing damage in an oil pump or something, because all it needs to do is block an oil way, or get caught up in the oil pump or in the timing chain, split the timing chain off, or skip a tooth and then your timing's out. It can cause loads of problems. So yeah, that's where it is at the moment. The next step is trying to find out if we could, first of all, the repair manuals aren't available anywhere from Toyota. My guys in the UK, the dealership I worked at for a couple of months, I give them a call and they were like, yeah, there's no repair manuals at all. There's like torque settings for oil filter or sump plug and something else, like I said earlier in the other video. So the next problem is, if we do strip it, then as anyone knows with an engine building, you can't just randomly tighten things up to what there need to be procedures, there need to be torque and everything. That's one problem. Then the next problem is there going to be availability on parts? Mm-hmm. Most of the time when we've had Audi, a new RS6, for instance, when the engine let go, parts were on back order and the car sat on the lift for 2 months because literally nothing you can do, factory back order on parts. So I'm hoping that that's not going to be the case and it all does go smoothly, but who knows? It could be anything from here. So yeah, it's not great, but
quite
it is
unfortunate.
what it is.
You can see also here the cam has some scratches.
Yeah, damage on the top of the lobe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, at this point, what do you think? Is it better just to replace the whole engine?
It's hard to say without taking the head off. It could be a case that the valve, because with the bore scope's not that high res, and when you're that close to the piston with a bore, you can't really see too much detail. It was way too wet in there to see anything. It could be a case that a piston could be slightly cracked. It could be that a piece of the piston has chipped away. It could be that the bore is damaged. It could be anything. We might even be lucky enough to get away with a machine work on the head so that you don't have to replace the head after valve damage. It's rare that you can get away with that, but we've seen it in the past. So, so yeah, it's hard to say the extent of the damage. At the moment, I would say intake camshaft. The rest of the valve train needs to be stripped and inspected because you can't be too sure if it's only that one with the damage, with the starting of the damage kind of thing. So I'd go with that, and then obviously the stuff for cylinder 1. And I would, at the moment, cost into the factor that it would need a head. That was my assumption so far.
It's probably like the best case scenario if it's just a head. Probably if you have to calculate all the labor and everything, it's easier to replace the whole head if you don't have to replace the whole engine. Yeah. That's
It depends. It really does depend because newer engines. Anyone that's watching that works at dealerships for the last 15 to 20 years, you'll know that an engine back then compared to now, these are a lot more fragile, tolerances are a lot lower, so there's a lot less forgiveness in when something does go wrong. So you could have a small problem which on the Starlet engine, the 4E, might be no problem. Yeah, put it back together with a new part, done, easy. Mm-hmm. Whereas that tolerance is like half, and it's not ideal. But we'll see. It's going to be if we strip it here, then it's going to be certainly interesting to see what we're going to need as well because I'm sure there's going to be some special timing tools and some other stuff with it. So, which again isn't available still. So, we need to have a think about it and see how we're going to play it. But obviously, we need to get it sorted as soon as possible.
Yeah, of course.
We don't want it sitting around for a month, 2 months, 3 months because no one wants that. We've got people that want to take the car. We want to enjoy the car. So.
I want to take the car out. I haven't done a single lap with it.
Yeah, same.
Well, I did last year when we was talking, but ever since we put the mods on, like the wheels, the brakes, the KW suspension, and yes, some people actually said, "Oh, it's because of the mods that the engine blew up."
Because of the what?
Because of the mods.
Well, I mean, let's just say you should stay away from touching cars. Yeah. Maybe just stick to driving them.
Yeah.
Because suspension causing an engine to blow up is an odd one, for sure.
Yeah, anyhow. But we know what caused it. There could be still a chance that it might have been some sort of mechanical failure. Or
It could be.
It could be,
yeah.
Because, as mentioned, as described previously, the over rev happened. After that, Robert finished the lap. Then he did 5 more full sand laps with it. And then the car was parked away overnight. And then the following day, the car got started, warmed up for like 15 minutes, and then went for a lap. And halfway through the lap, that happened. So
it's very difficult to say because an over rev. This is a very typical sign of an over rev. Like. As me and Robert spoke about, we both said if this had happened at 20,000 RPM, this would not be the case, be rest assured. It would be all of the valve springs, all of the rockers, probably even a rod through the block. It wouldn't have been as simple, from what we can see, one rocker. So
would have been a good video for him because he had his cameras rolling.
I mean, that would have been lit. That would have been a big clean-up as well, but it would have been lit. No, but he's obviously done a good job when it did go to drop the clutch and
save it from
complete destruction. So
because it could have resulted also in a crash because then everything blocks up, and then you just get sent in the barrier.
Exactly. So for anyone that's just out and out to be a troll, then this, trust me, this would be a lot more damage. A lot more damage if it was a case of he just went from fifth to second, full send with the clutch in and 20,000 RPM.
Yep.
The engine would be destroyed. But so he's done a good job of saving it, the boy.
Yeah, yeah. So credit this is where credit due, and also especially for the fact for admitting it, because it could have said like, oh yeah, well the car was running perfectly, now it doesn't. But that's not how we are. Also,
before we finish, there's a couple of people have just asked me as well, if I don't message back in time, they ask what this contraption is. This is a carrier for the fuel pump. So the fuel pump bolts in here, and this is like a little bucket, and it sits in here. So the cam lobe underneath this bucket pushes up and down the high pressure fuel pump, which makes the fuel pump work. Just so you know, that's what the people was asking. So
yeah, cool. Well, stay tuned to find out more. But this so far, what has happened, what is going to happen, and hopefully we'll get this baby back on the road as quick as possible, because many of you want to drive it. Many of us want to drive it.
Well, this is a good excuse for test laps, though, when it gets to the engine.
It is. Breaking in the engine.
Exactly.
You're going to break in the engine on the Nürburgring, because we have JK anyway, so we're going to take turns. Yeah, well.
Just a lap each.
Talking nonsense now, so you know what this means. This is the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys learned a thing or two. Don't Misshift, obviously. This is the one thing. And yeah, everything else. Stay safe, stay awesome. Looking forward to seeing you, hopefully in this car, when we get back on the road. But I'm sure we will. So thanks, George, for the info.
No dramas. I'm not going to leave you hanging.
Yeah.